Your legs may be warning you about diabetes. 9 signs seniors should never ignore. Think about the last time your legs felt a little off. Maybe there was a tingling feeling in your feet that came and went. Maybe your ankles looked slightly more swollen than usual by the end of the day. Maybe you noticed a small cut on your shin that took just a little longer to heal than it should have. You probably didn't think much of it. Most people don't. They chalk it up to getting older, to being on their feet too long, to the weather, to tired muscles. And that right there, that moment of brushing it off, is exactly where the danger begins. Because here is something most doctors don't sit down and explain to their patients in plain English. Your legs are often the very first part of your body to show signs that something serious is going wrong with your blood sugar. Not your eyes, not your heart, not a blood test result, your legs. And for millions of Americans over the age of 55, those quiet, easy-to-ignore leg symptoms are already happening right now. And they have no idea that what they're feeling is their body waving a red flag directly at them. Type 2 diabetes affects more than 37 million Americans. But what's even more alarming is that roughly 1 in 5 of them don't know they have it. That's nearly 8 million people walking around with a condition that is silently damaging their blood vessels, their nerves, and yes, their legs, every single day. And the tragedy is, so many of those warning signs are right there on the surface, literally on their skin and in their feet, just waiting to be recognized. Today we're going to talk about 9 specific signs in your legs and feet that may be warning you about diabetes. Signs that are often dismissed, misunderstood, or missed entirely. Some of these will surprise you, some may feel uncomfortably familiar, and 1 or 2 might just change the way you look at your body from this day forward. Before we go any further, if you find this kind of real, honest health information valuable, the kind that could genuinely protect you or someone you love, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Dr.Selric. We put out content specifically designed to help seniors and their families navigate health in a way that is clear, caring, and actually useful in real life. It means the world to us when you choose to be part of this community. Now let's get into this. And let's start with something that affects more seniors than almost any other leg symptom, and yet is almost universally blamed on the wrong thing. That strange, prickling, almost electric sensation in your feet. Some people describe it as pins and needles. Others say it feels like something is crawling under the skin. A few people say it's almost like their feet are buzzing, or that they feel oddly numb even though nothing has gone to sleep. This is called peripheral neuropathy, and in the context of diabetes, it is one of the most important early warning signs your body can give you. Here's why it happens. When blood sugar stays elevated for too long, sometimes over months or years, it begins to damage the tiny nerve fibers that run throughout your body, particularly in the hands and feet. These nerves are responsible for sending sensation signals to your brain. When they get damaged, those signals go haywire. They misfire. They send false alarms. Or in some cases, they stop sending signals altogether, which creates that frightening numbness that some people experience. The reason this gets dismissed so often is because it comes and goes, especially early on. You might feel it at night when you're lying in bed, and by morning it's gone. So you think, maybe it was just the way I was sleeping. Maybe my shoes were too tight yesterday. But if this sensation is returning repeatedly, especially in the feet and lower legs, especially at night, it deserves real attention, not a shrug. Nerve damage from diabetes, once it progresses, cannot be easily reversed. But caught early, there is genuine hope for slowing it down and protecting your quality of life. The second sign is one that tends to get noticed only in summer or when people are barefoot, and yet it carries a warning that goes deep below the surface of the skin. It's changes in skin color on your legs. Not the kind of tanning that happens from sun exposure, but a darker, sometimes brownish or almost bronze discoloration that appears around the shins or ankles. There's actually a medical name for this. It's called diabetic dermopathy, and it's caused by changes in the small blood vessels that supply your skin. These spots often look like age spots or sun damage, and many seniors are told exactly that by well-meaning family members or even at routine checkups. But the difference is in the pattern. These discolorations tend to appear in clusters, often on the front of the lower legs, in a way that sun damage alone doesn't typically create. What's happening beneath those spots is a story of blood vessels under stress. Elevated glucose damages the walls of capillaries. those tiny, delicate vessels responsible for bringing oxygen and nutrients to your skin. When those walls weaken, small amounts of blood can leak into the surrounding tissue, causing that telltale discoloration. It's a visible sign that the vascular system in your legs may already be under strain. And while the spots themselves are usually harmless, they are a window into what may be happening in deeper tissues and organs as well. Now, this next one is particularly important, and it's something we want you to share with any senior in your life who lives alone. Because this warning sign is one that people frequently discover too late. It's slow-healing wounds or sores on the legs and feet. This is not about the occasional scrape that takes a week to fully close. This is about cuts, blisters, or pressure sores that linger for 2, 3, 4 weeks or longer, with little sign of real healing. This happens for two compounding reasons in people with diabetes. First, high blood sugar impairs the immune response and reduces the body's ability to fight infection and rebuild tissue. Second, nerve damage in the feet means that many small injuries go completely unnoticed because the person genuinely cannot feel them. They can't feel the friction from a shoe rubbing the wrong way. They can't feel the blister forming. They can't feel the warmth that signals early infection. This is how diabetic foot ulcers develop, and this is one of the leading reasons why diabetes is the #1 cause of non-traumatic lower limb amputations in the United States. Not because the disease is inevitable, but because the signs were there, were missed, and the wound had too much time to go untreated. If you or someone you love has a wound on their foot or lower leg that isn't closing up the way it should, even if it doesn't hurt, please treat that as a medical situation that needs attention now, not later. Let's talk about swelling. Nearly everyone experiences some puffiness in the ankles and feet from time to time, particularly after a long day or a long flight. But the swelling associated with diabetes tells a different story, and the key is in the pattern and the persistence. Diabetic-related swelling in the lower legs, a condition called edema, tends to appear consistently, often in both legs, and it doesn't fully go away with rest the way ordinary tired feet swelling does. You might notice that your socks are leaving deep indentations in your ankles by evening, or that your shoes feel tight at the same time every day, or that pressing a finger into your shin leaves a small dent that takes a few seconds to pop back up. This kind of swelling happens because diabetes damages the blood vessels and kidneys over time, impairing the body's fluid regulation. When the kidneys aren't filtering efficiently, and when blood vessel walls have been weakened by chronically high glucose, fluid begins to accumulate in the tissue. Your legs, being the lowest point in your body when you're upright, bear the brunt of that accumulation. Now, swelling in the legs can have several causes: heart conditions, kidney disease, certain medications, and any of them deserve medical evaluation. But in the context of diabetes risk, consistent lower leg swelling is a signal that should never be explained away as just water retention without being checked out properly. Here is one that very few people connect to diabetes, and it surprises almost everyone when they first hear it: leg cramps, especially at night. Those sudden, intense muscle spasms in the calf that jolt you awake at 2 in the morning. They're painful, they're disorienting, and most people assume they're just a sign of dehydration or low potassium. And sometimes that is exactly what they are. But when leg cramps happen frequently, and especially when they occur alongside any of the other signs we're discussing today, they can be an early indicator of the nerve and circulation problems that go hand in hand with poor blood sugar control. The nerve damage that comes with diabetes doesn't just create tingling and numbness. It can also trigger abnormal muscle signals, essentially causing muscles to fire on their own without the voluntary signal from your brain. The result is that involuntary cramping that feels like someone is wringing your calf muscle out like a wet cloth. Additionally, the poor circulation that often accompanies diabetes means that muscles in the legs are getting less oxygen and fewer nutrients, making them more susceptible to cramping under even minor strain. If you're regularly waking up with leg cramps and it's not simply because you forgot to drink water that day, please don't normalize it. It may be your body speaking a language worth learning to understand. Now, we want to pause here for just a moment and be honest with you about something. None of the signs we're sharing today are a diagnosis. Not a single one. They are signals, invitations from your body asking you to pay closer attention. The only way to know for sure whether blood sugar is a concern is through proper testing, and that's always worth having done. What we're doing here is giving you the knowledge to recognize when those tests are worth pursuing urgently, rather than leaving it for the next routine checkup that's already 6 months away. Continuing on, the next sign is one that tends to cause a great deal of unnecessary embarrassment, and that's hair loss on the lower legs. Many seniors simply assume it's a normal part of aging, and while some thinning of leg hair does occur naturally over time, a significant and patchy loss of hair, specifically on the lower legs and tops of the feet, can be a meaningful indicator of reduced circulation caused by diabetes. Here's the connection. Hair follicles require a healthy and consistent blood supply to produce hair. When circulation is compromised, as it is in peripheral arterial disease, which is heavily associated with diabetes, the follicles gradually lose their nourishment. The result is that the hair simply stops growing. Sometimes the skin in those areas also takes on a shiny, almost tight appearance, and it may feel cooler to the touch than the skin higher up on the leg. This symptom is easy to overlook precisely because it happens so gradually. It's not like waking up one morning and noticing a bald patch. It happens over months or even years, and by the time someone notices it, they've already adapted their mental picture of their own body. If you haven't taken a close look at your lower legs lately, it might be worth doing. Compare the hair density on your shins to what it looked like several years ago if you can. Significant changes are worth mentioning to your doctor. The 8th sign brings us to something that happens not on the surface of the legs, but deeper, in the muscles themselves. It's a condition called claudication, and while the word sounds complicated, the experience is actually quite recognizable once you know what to look for. It's a cramping, aching, or heavy fatigue in the legs that appears reliably when you walk a certain distance, and then fades when you rest. The key feature is that it's predictable and reproducible. You might walk to the mailbox and feel fine. You walk around the block and your calves start to ache. You sit down for a few minutes and the feeling mostly goes away. Then you get up and walk again, and at roughly the same distance it comes back. This pattern is a hallmark of peripheral arterial disease, a narrowing of the arteries that supply blood to the legs, caused by the same process of vascular damage that diabetes accelerates. When you exercise, your muscles need more oxygen-rich blood. If the arteries delivering that blood are narrowed, the muscles essentially run out of fuel before you've gone very far. The resulting ache is your muscles sending a distress signal. Many seniors assume this is just a normal part of getting older, that of course they can't walk as far as they used to. But claudication is a specific symptom with a specific cause, and it deserves medical evaluation, not simply acceptance. And then there is the final sign. This one is perhaps the most quietly unnerving because it's so easy to explain away, and yet it can mean so much. It's the simple feeling that your feet are cold, even when the rest of your body feels warm, even when you're wrapped in blankets, even in the heat of summer. Cold feet can come from many things, but when they're persistently cold, when one foot seems colder than the other, and when the cold is accompanied by any of the other signs we've discussed today, it points to a real reduction in blood flow to the extremities. Good circulation keeps your feet warm by continuously delivering warm, oxygen-rich blood through the arteries. When those arteries are narrowed or damaged, a process diabetes speeds up dramatically, that warmth doesn't reach the feet the way it should. It's the same reason a poorly heated room at the far end of a house is always the coldest one. The heat simply isn't making it that far. Cold feet in this context aren't a comfort issue. They are a circulation issue. And circulation issues in the feet can, over time, become the kind of serious problems that lead to much more difficult outcomes if they aren't caught and addressed. So here we are, 9 signs. Tingling or numbness in the feet, skin discoloration on the lower legs, slow healing wounds, persistent swelling in the ankles and shins, frequent nighttime leg cramps, hair loss on the lower legs and feet, intermittent leg pain that comes with walking and fades with rest, and persistently cold feet. Some of you watching this right now may have recognized one of these. Some of you may have recognized 3 or 4. And if that's the case, we want you to know something important. Recognizing them is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to act. There is an enormous difference between those two things. The story of diabetes doesn't have to be one of slow decline and increasing limitation. For millions of Americans, it is a story of a diagnosis that came early enough to make a real difference, where changes in diet, movement, sleep, and medical support allowed them to live full, active, independent lives for decades. The people who get that outcome aren't the ones who were lucky. They're the ones who paid attention when their body started speaking. They're the ones who took a symptom seriously instead of explaining it away. They're the ones who asked the question even when they were afraid of the answer. Here at Dr.Selric, we believe that information is one of the most powerful tools a person can have when it comes to their health. Not fear, not panic. Information. Understanding. The kind of knowledge that lets you walk into a doctor's office and say, "I've been noticing these things in my legs and I want to get checked." With confidence instead of uncertainty. If this video gave you something valuable today, whether it's a new awareness, a concern you're going to get checked out, or even just a feeling of, "I'm going to pay closer attention," we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell us what you noticed. Share whether any of these signs felt familiar. Let us know what topics you'd like us to cover next. Your comments don't just help us, they help every other person who reads them and realizes they are not alone in what they're experiencing. And please, if you have a parent, a sibling, a neighbor, or a friend who is over 55 and might not know about these warning signs, share this video with them. Not to frighten them, but because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is hand them a piece of information that could change the course of their health. That is what this community is built on. Take care of your legs, take care of your feet, and take care of yourself, because you matter more than you know.